Happy holiday season. This is All Sorts of Adventure, and this is my beautiful wife, Sarah.
Hello, and this is Nate. We are going to share with you how we made it through 2 years of long distance dating while only being together for less than 50 days. Here's what we learned.
I think that was pretty good. Okay.
Before we get into all this long distance relationship dating tips and tricks, we're going to give you a little bit of our background. So start the timer for 45 seconds.
To a minute. And go.
What if I had it in 45 seconds?
And go.
Nate and I have actually known each other for 16 years-ish, thanks to his younger sister, Emily. Thanks for the birthday party invite, Emily.
Mm-hmm. In 2015, I would find myself up here in Alaska with the Army.
And I was in Arizona at Arizona State getting my degree. We started dating in May 2015.
I would propose next year in September 2016.
And finally, we got married in May 2017. When we started dating in July 2015, we actually didn't see each other as girlfriend. Like, we started dating long distance and didn't see each other as girlfriend and boyfriend until December 2015. So about 5 or 6 months.
And Sarah would be my first girlfriend, so I was mega awkward the first time we met.
Mega.
Can I, hold your hand, maybe? And between all of that, we saw each other for about 50 days. And so here's what we learned through the rest of that time being long distance.
You ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Tip number 1 is near and dear to my heart. And again, all of these are for long distance, but also for you if you are in the same vicinity. How do you say that?
Location, geographically speaking.
It is to communicate. Be a communicator. Because if you can communicate long distance really well, then you're going to be able to communicate with your spouse or significant other when you're together.
When you're together with someone or interact with people every day, it's pretty easy to take for granted just how much body language or how much physically being with someone can see. 90% of communication isn't actually spoken. And so when you don't have that actual physical interaction, now we were kind of forced to articulate what was going through our head, thoughts and emotions, and with words, and without having that X factor of us actually being together. Save yourself and the other person the trouble and the heartache, and just learn to communicate and articulate what's going through your mind when it's going through your mind.
If I was mad or frustrated at Nate, I couldn't give him the cold shoulder or the silent treatment because that would just lead to frustration and confusion, I think. And that's not how mature relationships can work. I had to be able to say how I felt, which for me was a little bit of a struggle, but Nate was super, what's the word?
Awesome, amazing.
All of it.
I think that's what you were going for.
Yeah. Okay.
So number 2, the second point we have, it was we were kind of thinking about what 5 points we could make, is really just to be flexible. And now this has to be so much exercise, so much more when you're not communicating well, but be flexible. Sarah was not only a full-time student in ASU, Sun Devils, but she was also working 2, sometimes 3 jobs at a time. So with me in the Army, I would get up early in the morning and sometimes not get off till 5, 6, 7 o'clock, maybe even later. Or I would just be gone for 2 weeks at a time. Now, flexibility comes into play because many times Sarah and I would have to communicate, hey, can you talk 10 or 15 minutes later? Or, hey, I might not be able to even talk tonight. And so while it helps when we communicated, it really helps when we were also flexible that timelines might change.
If you have 2 people living in different areas, with different jobs or friends or commitment, you just have to be flexible. We do this. You have to have your flexible hat on. You got to be willing to flex for the other person.
And that's not saying that when someone makes the commitment, hey, we're going to talk at this time, this day, that they get to bail and that you're flexible with it. It just means be prepared. Sometimes things happen out of the other's control. Then you have to be able to flex with it. And that's part of growing with the other. Number 3
is be creative and resourceful. And Nate was the king at this.
The king.
Whoa.
Now, in order to be creative and resourceful, you really got to force yourself to think outside the box. Okay? You got to think outside the box.
To love the other person as well as you can, we would recommend learning their love language. If you don't know what that is, we'll send a link down in the description box about the love language book by Gary Chapman. It's called The 5 Love Languages, and it just helps you care for the other person in a way that they'll receive it best.
You said it perfectly that time. We're going to keep that one.
Okay. You can be creative in many ways. Gifts, dates, and the way that you communicate. Nathan was amazing at giving gifts that meant a lot, or that he put a lot of quality time into. One of my favorite gifts that he gave us, because it was something that we both use, was this leather-bound journal. And we would mail it back and forth, and he actually engraved where he was in Alaska and where I was in Arizona. Another one of my favorite dates that Nate came up with was he sent me pizza to my house with all my favorite toppings on it, as well as a candle and a movie. And so I got to have like a little date
without me.
Yeah.
It was kind of romantic. And the point, just be creative. Think of ways of doing things that you normally do, but just in a creative, different, fun manner. I mean, you really don't have, your only other option is to not be creative. And you'll truly have fun with long distance when you actually take advantage of the opportunity you get to have to be creative.
Our tip number 4 is being intentional, which is just about taking the time that you have and making the most of it, whether that's a 2-minute phone call or, an hour-long FaceTime call. Yeah.
So, along with being intentional, you need to be intentional about like the other 3 things we've already spoken about. When we were talking specifically, Sarah would have an amazing capacity to remember details about where I was living, people I was interacting with, like the names of those people, like different job titles, or in the Army, we have a million acronyms for everything, and she would remember. When it's the first time she actually visited, she was kind of a pro at just spouting out these Army acronyms, but she was intentional. It was intentional to remember details and things about what I was doing, where I was living, and it made me feel super special to her.
Nate was also really good at this. He would remember things that I said about my housemates. If we were going out to an activity, he would ask, oh, how did your dinner with this person go? Or how did your work go? I know you were having a problem with this person. Whatever it was, he was always super intentional about remembering things that I had said before, which just showed me again, oh, he's listening and he cares about me.
Unfortunately, most people know the obvious thing to do, we just don't do it. And so yes, being intentional, while obvious, it's going to greatly increase all of the effectiveness of these other tips, and it's going to make it easier even to do this next one. Okay. Our final tip of these 5,
probably the hardest,
is going to be forgiving and understanding the other individual.
One of my favorite quotes of all time is, conflict done well builds intimacy. It sounds crazy. I absolutely love fighting with Nathan because he loves me so well when we disagree or when we argue. He fights so well to protect my heart. And so I always came out of a disagreement feeling even more loved than I did before, because one of us would compromise or both of us would compromise. And that just came from a place of loving and forgiving one another and understanding that we're both human, but we're in it for the long run. So not keeping tally is huge, right? Like,
don't keep score.
Like, hey, you were late for that phone call again, or you forgot to mention, you forgot to ask about this huge thing that I've been doing. Not keeping score is absolutely huge.
5 minutes late, really? 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Still, to this day. And when there is a conflict, just seeking to understand the other person rather than seeking to be understood.
And then just remember, again, in being intentional about forgiving and understanding, like whether it's late for a phone call or any number of reasons, don't waste the precious time you do have talking with someone. Don't waste the precious time you have talking with the other individual, being frustrated or angry or having contempt. And like, obviously, you guys need to sort it out, communicate, talk about it, verbalize and articulate those feelings and things that are going on in your head. But in the end, move past it.
Move on, girl.
Move on, boy. Not from them, but sort it out. Don't waste your time being frustrated or angry. Talk about it and grow stronger. Again, conflict handled well and correctly builds intimacy.
with that, those are our 5 tips for long distance dating. We absolutely loved long distance dating.
Loved it.
If you are in a long distance relationship or about to be, or you have tips and tricks, go ahead and comment below. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. We will keep you updated on more adventures.
We had a blast sharing this with you, and if there's something you guys want to hear more from us, let us know down below. Yeah, you have anything else to say? Because I don't.
Nope.
Okay, later guys.
Bye.